expert biologist, and when this handsome fellow isn't traveling across the world doing research, he's at home cooking a great meal?
But yeah, that's all true, but Sancho, where did you get that?
An excellent assistant knows how to write an excellent introduction. You got it, boss.
Or taking a long walk on the beach? Who wrote this mess?
That is, I only learned about this dude, like I said, like this week. Like it was from a comment, uh, one of those comment, what's it called? One of those comment video things, where they play the comments on the screen and they read it out in like a metal thing. And I thought that was really funny. And it was, who is this dude? Was what my what my thing was like. This guy's playing really well. Who is he? And I need to know, right? So I went and checked it out because the reason was like I really, I went and checked out his live performance, and I was like, this guy's really good. And I mean, the point, the thing was that this week, right? Not the point, but like the thing was for this live stream, I was going to play a song by, let me see, where is it? Marty Friedman. Yeah, it was supposed to be this one here, but then then I thought, well, this, you know, so I was going to play a cultural kind of like themed heavy metal instrumental, right? But then to find this dude here, Sutaj Singh, right? No relation to me, right? Not that I know of, anyway. And both of them are amazing guitarists. So I thought, well, why not go and play, Sutaj's, and so you guys get to check out a new music. Like this is, like I said, I love living this generation because you can like learn about someone and instantly do a search and find out who they are, find out their whole release history, playlist, videos, concerts, interviews, all that. And this is what I love about this generation so much, to be able to have that sort of access to information so quickly. However, a lot of time that access kind of can be depressing and kind of actually make us dull to what's out there, which is what our theme for today is, right? Which is like looking at thousands and thousands of Christians dying in Africa, and it's like, oh, it's just another day because it's Africa, blacks killing blacks, and nobody bats an eye if a black person kills a black person, right? If an African person kills an African person, because hey, it happens all the time, so nobody gives it, whatever. But at the end of the day, you kind of like go, well, when are we going to say, well, hey, something needs to be done? But the more everybody says we need to do something, nothing ever gets done. You pour money into it, like you just like recently, with the US aid, you saw like millions and millions, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, being poured into Africa, and it does nothing. Because most of it's just taken slices being taken over by corrupt politicians and ministers and what's it, NGOs, non-government organizations, which most of USAID is, right? And so what I want to look at today, just before we start, was this. I just saw this really crazy video pop up from Asia. And I thought, well, why don't we look at that first, right? And then we can go and check out some other, the rest of the topics and stuff. So check out what happens if you're really not smart about traveling overseas, like really, really not smart. So this is from Asia Now. There's a good, a good channel. I watch a lot of his, information out of Asia. He's an expat from Canada, if I remember right. So let's move over to this one. Nope, that one. Was it that one? Nope. Man, this new thing is really bugging me as well now. I thought I had it. I thought I had it down, sorted. There we go. All right. So this is brand new. Well, dropped an hour ago. So expat becomes homeless in Philippines with rotten leg, no money and nowhere home. So it's quite sad, right? This is really, really bad. There's nothing fun about this story. There's nothing humor, but it's one of those. What we say? It's one of those. Be warned, right? Something like that. Like I can't remember the exact words, but it's like be warned.
In this video, I'm going to focus only on one story, but I promise you it's an incredible story. Here it is. A British man stranded in the Philippines claims he is waiting to pass away after his life took a horrific turn, leaving him with a rotten leg, no visa, and no way home. Conan White, 60 years old, has been left in unimaginable agony, his foot mangled beyond recognition after a botched medical procedure, a failed witch doctor's exorcism, and years of neglect. His harrowing descent into nightmare began when he uprooted his life to move to the Southeast Asian country in 2018 for love, only to be stabbed by his girlfriend and abandoned in the slums. Now penniless, immobile, and starving, Conan says he is trapped in the jungle hut, held like a prisoner by locals who control the only key to the gate. With his funds nearly depleted and his health rapidly deteriorating, he fears he's only days away from not being alive. Quote.
So this dude, right, went online to a Christian dating site, and here's the thing, right? Here's a warning to all you so-called foreigners, male and female, because I've come across a female who did the same thing, and this is like about probably a decade and a half ago. Yeah, about 15 plus years ago. And when I met her, I was really uneasy. And I was like, because what I heard made me feel uneasy. Like in my gut or in my chest, I was like, there's something, isn't going to turn out right. And whenever I feel that way, I kind of like pay attention to it, or I note it down. And then I was told about 6 months to a year later by my mom that this lady who had met someone online from Australia, went over to live with them. He locked her up in his garage and held her captive in Australia, by the way, not in some foreign Asian, backward, whatever, third world country, in Australia, right? So, and that was 15 years ago. So this is this guy here, 7 years ago, right, who basically just met someone on a Christian dating site, right, and decided, well, this is the lady of my life. And so he went out there and met her, took took whatever he had, money in his pocket, whatever. All right, we're going to make a home for ourselves. The problem is when you're overseas, you don't have much control over what happens. You really don't, right? Unless you have family there, you should not be making plans like this. Unless you know how to speak the language, you shouldn't be making plans like this, right? Unless you have a work situation there, where it's provided for you, you got interpreters and, all the setup, right? Safety nets are set up. You shouldn't be running overseas to do, set up home, right? And this guy is learning the hard way and has learned the hard way, and it keeps getting worse for him.
This is really it now. The project that is me is almost over, he said. The desperate Brit has told Mail Online about his hellish experience living and surviving in the Philippines wilderness after setting up a crucial fundraiser he hopes may just save his life. Conan, eager to return to what once was his home in Newbury, Berkshire, UK, is now begging the British Embassy to rescue him from his nightmare as he battles living in a jungle located a 17-hour ferry away from any civilization with a decaying foot. The Foreign Office have informed Mail Online they are aware of his plight. The expat moved to the Philippines in 2018 after meeting a woman on Christian dating app. Excited to begin his new life, he gave up his job as an HR officer at Hindua Global Solutions to start what he thought would be a fresh start in the paradise of Southeast Asian country. But his world quickly came crashing down when he realized he had made a dangerous mistake, falling for a woman he claims was involved in dubious business and had abandoned her child. After spending around 5 years with his then girlfriend and even taking her 9-year-old son from the hands of her sister, she would go to stab him in May 2022. Conan said the
So this dude, right, in 2018 decides to go over there, meets someone online, goes over to the Philippines, doesn't know the language. Maybe he does, whatever, but he doesn't know the culture. He doesn't know how the, and I've talked about this myself, right here, just traveling to Fiji, where my mom had to, when I was drunk, like mom's like, you're staying home, going up, going nightclubbing. I'm like, I'm going. And she's like, okay, well, asks one of my cousins or my uncle, give me a cup of water. And then like goes, well, why don't you sleep, son? And like, because I'm like out of my case, because this is when I was on medication and I was drinking and I was heavy intoxicated. And I'm like, no, I need to go, because I get very energetic when I've been drinking, right? And so I decided, well, let's go clubbing, let's let that energy out. And so I can just remember mom pouring water on my crutch, over my pants, because I'm lying in bed, because I'm all ready to go out, right? All suited up, dressed up. And then she goes, no, you can't go out. Look, you've just wet yourself. You're just, you're going to disgrace yourself and all that in public. And I'm like, okay. And I'm out, like weird, like my brain just, but this is in Fiji, where I'm actually from natively, indigenously, whatever. And around my family, and my parents are like, my family's scared of me going out on the town in our own kind of like, country, right? Secondary country, whatever. Yet this is this dude over in Philippines, leaving his home in Britain as an elderly man, meeting someone online, goes over to Philippines because he met this lady on a Christian dating site, right? And goes there and finds out she's got a 9-year-old son and she's very bad solo mother, right? And doesn't know the culture well, and now he's living in a decrepit situation, and she stabs him after 5 years of being together.
Relationship was flawed, and the vicious attack is what led him to his first encounter with Philippines police. The Brit recalled laying on a bed in their shared home after they had broken up before she launched the unprovoked assault on him. Quote, I was on the bed, and the next thing I know, she was attacking me, fighting me, stabbing me, and then she stabbed me in my foot. She stabbed me twice. I have no idea what with. He said he retreated in a panic, hobbling down the stairs, and Conan then rushed to the police, only to be told they would not investigate unless he paid a bribe. Alone and injured.
So here's the other thing. He doesn't know anything about her background apart from what she's told him. They're complete strangers. He's got all good intentions, right? I want to start up a life with this foreign lady, who I like, who I've met online, who I found hot, whatever, attractive. She's telling me all she needs to tell me because she wants me, wants my money, right? Basically, that's what he doesn't realize that, but that's what she wants. She wants a good life. And now whatever the case is, she doesn't want him around. And he's basically should have left years ago, right? When he realized that she's, doesn't care about her son. But no, he's going to stick around and put himself in more danger until she stabs him a couple of times. And now he's screwed. Not only is he running out of money, the woman he's come to expect to be his partner, wife, whatever, doesn't like him and is trying to murder him.
He was forced to patch himself up and flee into the slums of Cebu. Following the bloody assault, Conan was forced to live a rat-infested squalor where he came face to face with disease-ridden vermin the size of cats and shared a communal bathroom with cobras. Images shared by Conan of a Cebu slum revealed the beginning of his tragic journey from home comfort to desperate measures. His bed, merely 2 wooden pallets topped with a single dirty duvet and a child's pillow, was where Conan attempted to rest and recover. The toilet was shared by a dozen other poverty-stricken Filipinos, and a scene surrounded by large, grimy waste bins. His $1 or 1.4 pound per night accommodation were little more than a filthy, crumbling shack. There, Conan was bitten by a rat and contracted mpox. What? But although it seemed as the Brit hit rock bottom, his suffering was far from over. In the summer of 2023, Conan took a catastrophic fall down a freeway after just having recovered from COVID-19 and mpox, saying his immune system was at its weakest. It was during this incident Conan's foot was left shattered, forcing him to seek treatment at a private clinic where he claims the doctor deliberately butchered his limb to extort him for money. Quote, locals confirmed to me that I shouldn't have gone there and that he was a charlatan that will hack your foot apart, end quote. Days later.
This is the other thing. Remember, we're talking about, I think it was Thailand with that guy, Kevin, I think it was, I think at the end of last year, who was taken hostage. He's a live streamer. The locals are warning him, right? You must leave. They're coming for you. You must leave. And he ignored them. He ignored his wife, right? And her family, and he ended up being shot in the leg and bleeding out, right? FBI and everybody else was involved from America because he was an American. And it's just crazy. Like, people have this weird idealistic idea of the world, you know, and if you keep that idealistic idea of the world, you're going to get yourself in trouble, like this dude did and that other guy did, right? Kevin Eastman, that was his name. And he paid with his life, and this guy's paying with his life on everything he's got, right? Having to pay a bribe to look into the case, trying to get help, pay for it. You know, he's freaking got monkeypox, right? Mpox. You know, he's got gangrene. He's basically, his foot's rotting away.
A water burst in his home sent him tumbling down the stairs again, worsening his injuries. His foot became twisted, mangled, and oozing with infection. The man soon began experiencing a fever, one so severe he had to be taking antibiotics and useless medication that were not working, he says. Quote, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but I was probably done at that point. I was in a complete state. I could barely speak. I could barely move. I couldn't hold down food. Conan's then girlfriend, who was located in Malaysia and growing increasingly concerned for his well-being, said he immediately needed to go to a hospital. Her brothers took an 8-hour ferry from Mindanao to Cebu to bring him back to the Philippine islands so he could be seen at the city hospital. Quote, but when you go to the hospital here, you don't get much help. You have to have...
And that's the other thing, right? If you do not have insurance overseas, and I've made the mistake of not having it, right? Not that I've needed it, which I'm very thankful for, but if you're traveling overseas, please get insurance, right? Medical insurance, because you just never know what's going to happen, right? Because, like I said, you can be idealistic about the world, but you have to be pragmatic, all right? Especially if you're traveling. If you've never been to a place before, please protect yourself, right? Get insurance. Make sure that you're not leaving a burden to your family because you want to save a couple bucks. And this is what this guy's doing now. He's relying on charity. He's relying on GoFundMe, right? Crowdfunding to get him out of there because he's eating up all his money. All his good intentions are out the window right now. And look at this dude. This is how bad this dude is, right? You go to a doctor here or a nurse, whatever. Like, seriously. I think this might have been during COVID, so probably 2022 or something like that, 2020, 2021. But, you know, he ain't... It's a wonder he survived this long with all that's going on with him.
Someone with you, you have to have help. They have to stay with you in a hospital and sleep in the chair next to you. They're the ones who dress your wounds and get your medicine. The nurses don't do anything, he said. When he arrived back home, he quickly...
This is similar to what happens in the Pacific Islands as well, right? that you have to have a family member there. I'm not sure if it's a cultural thing or what, but they're the ones who like dress your wounds and stuff, and then this will show them how to do it, whatever it is. I really haven't liked Fiji hospitals. Really, the couple of times I've been there to visit someone, I've stayed outside, right, in the grounds, like just walking around, whatever, looking at this guy hanging out by the trees. I've just not liked hospitals ever since I was a child. I've spent a couple of times, like, you know, with operations and stuff, but I've never liked hospitals. I've got family members who are, you know, nurses and stuff, but just, you know, it is what it is, right? People don't really like hospitals, but that's because you know that you're sick and you know, so the best thing is to look after yourself, right? But this guy is constantly ill since his time there. And
Quickly realized his foot was not in any better state, and he was again rushed to the hospital. Conan claims the doctor did not look at his wound, instead charged him a hefty consultation fee and prescribed a course of antibiotics. Not able to return home and care for himself, the desperate and sick man went to stay with his girlfriend's mother, where in horror of events, he was left bedbound for a year due to her neglect. Quote, "It was a horrible time. It's very traumatizing," Kona said. "My leg was continuously infected. It was on the verge of gangrene." I don't know what that is, man. And realized.
So this is what gangrene is, right? So let me just bring it up. So gangrene is a serious medical condition that occurs when body tissue dies due to a lack of blood supply or a severe bacterial infection. And he's had that, right? He's had crazy infections. It most commonly affects the extremities such as fingers, toes, and limbs, right? I guess, you know, limbs, legs and arms or whatever. But it can also occur in internal organs and muscles. So there's about 5 different types of gangrene, right? So there's a dry gangrene caused by reduced blood flow, diabetes, conditions like diabetes, and atherosclerosis, right? Wet gangrene results from bacterial infection. In addition to poor blood flow, it spreads rapidly and produces pus. He's had that as well. And gas gangrene, a rare but deadly form caused by Clostridium bacteria producing gas within the tissues. And internal gangrene affects internal organs like the intestines, gallbladder, or appendix due to blood flow. And Fournier gangrene, a rare type affecting the genital region, usually caused by infection. So that's having gangrene is not a frigging good thing at all. And this guy is like, it's got it. Right? This is stuff that, you know, we've basically, if I remember right, we've gotten rid of in the West. Right? So yeah, serious stuff. You know, this guy's what a way to live your senior years, right? Go overseas in the hopes of love after meeting someone online, and then finding that you've got yourself into a dark hole that you just can't get out of. And while you're there, you're sick, you get sick, you keep getting sick, people you know, use you.
Needed to go to a hospital, but the mother kept telling me that I went to the hospital, they would just chop my leg off. She insisted that Conan that they would not offer any treatment and would jump straight to amputation, which left him fearing for his life. Conan claims her mother gave him another choice. However, she said, "If you stay here, I'll look after you. Give me your money." Desperate for aid, Conan followed her demands and was then taking care of his girlfriend's mother, but his foot would never fully recover. The mother took Conan off diabetic medication and his antibiotics, instead using herb remedies and try to fix his severe ailment. She had invited priests to the house.
Okay. So I'm going to leave that there. I don't want to, you know, use up all of Asia Now's channel, right? But do check, his video. content. But do please check out his channel. He's a really cool dude. He's got a lot. I mean, you know, I've looked at a lot of his videos. He's really really puts up stuff daily, and I mean, really puts up stuff daily. He does really good work, is what I meant, right? So do check it out. Asia Now, Official Asia Now is the name of the channel. So let's move on to. There we go. Something a bit more fun. All right, something before we get a little bit of fun, you know, not fun, but like, you know, something a bit happy, right? After that sad situation with that dude. So this is a dude who got rejected by 16 colleges in America, right? See, there's this whole idea that the left isn't racist and doesn't like exclude people. Yet here he is, this dude, rejected by 16 American colleges. And this is like the DII scams exposed. Right? So let's have a look at this video.
Rejected by nearly every school.
Could you read this?
It's impossible. I just see his words everywhere.
They don't want to solve the problem because they want to retain their power and control.
Hey guys, say we're talking about a student who was rejected from 16 universities only to be hired by Google as a software engineer. Now, universities claim to want the brightest minds, but then they reject someone with a near perfect SAT score, mind you. But one of the most competitive tech companies in the world hires him at 19. We have to discuss the reality of college admissions. Right now, one of these Ivy League universities probably just accepted someone because their college admissions essay was about how oppressed they are, right? How their mother didn't let them dye their hair when they were in 5th grade, and what that means for their gender identity. Because that's what matters nowadays, unfortunately, not your skills, not your intelligence, but whether or not
That kind of made me laugh because, like, I remember I was at Bible college, you know, a couple of years, this like 2020, around about 2020, and I went in one day with like, oh, the night before, like, I asked my friend Sonia to dye my hair like fudge red, like this red, right? And this is when I had hair. So this red, Harlequin red, right? And so it's nice, really bright red, Superman cape red, right? And it's long. So it's not like I'm bored or anything, but it's like long, right? You know, looking handsome, but bright red hair. So I went to it, and then we finished the class, and then my pastor comes up to me and goes, I don't want to see you with red hair tomorrow in college. It's cool, right? Back at class tomorrow. I said, okay. I didn't get upset. Then didn't pull, you know, oh, you're pressing me. I just went home. I just went and got Sonia. I said, hey, Sonia, yo, you know, I can't show up like this tomorrow. So can you come over home again? Let's go get some black dye and let's go dye my hair again. So within 24 hours, my hair went from like black to bleach, ginger. You know, it goes like when you bleach your hair, right? Black hair, it goes kind of like in different shades, to red, bright fire engine red, Superman cape red, to black again within 24 hours. And I think that was the last time I dyed my hair, because after that, my hair started thinning. And that was just the fact that, you know, put so much chemicals in. So yeah, I thought that was funny that she just put that up about like, oh, you know, this part here. It was like very funny before we get into it.
because that's what matters nowadays, unfortunately, not your skills, not your intelligence, but what identity. Because that's what matters nowadays. They are, right? How their mother didn't let them dye their hair when they were in 5th grade, and what that means for their gender identity. Because that's what matters nowadays, unfortunately, not your skills, not your intelligence, but whether or not you make the university look diverse. Writing an essay like that could have helped Stanley, or maybe he should have joined the RCTA community. Because once again, most colleges now are not looking for the best and brightest, they're looking for the right kind of oppressed.
Stanley Jong, a graduate of Palo Alto's Gun High School, the kid who founded his own document signing startup and was first recruited by Google when he was only 13, 13, when they discovered his code, got rejected by nearly every school, including state schools like Cal Poly.
Dude, the dude got signed by Google at 13. He's a kid prodigy, genius, right? Or virtuoso, as I learned the word yesterday while watching Senju, right? Which is one of the clips we play on the way out on the stream. Senju, right? And at 19, he gets rejected. This is them gatekeeping the very people they say they want in, right? Because guess what? I bet he doesn't believe in the same things that school stands for, which is leftism, ideology, and all that. So he's probably just a normal dude, everyday person, just like got mom, dad, God, country kind of thing, right? Family, all that. It's sad to see talent be wasted this way, and it's not just done to Asians; it's done to anybody who doesn't toe the line when it comes to ideology.
And UC Davis.
For some of them, like Cal Poly, some of the state schools, I really thought, I had a good chance.
So his father has filed a new lawsuit on February 11th against the University of California and 5 UC campuses: UC Berkeley, UCLA, UCSD, UCSB, and UC Davis, as well as the U.S. Department of Education, for racial discrimination. What we're trying to get out of this is fair treatment for future Asian applicants going forward, including my other kids and my future grandkids. And listen to this, Stanley had a 4.42 GPA from Gunn High School and 1590 out of 1600 on the SATs, a near perfect score. It seems that these rejections have nothing to do with his qualifications, but rather racial discrimination in college admissions.
His story was brought up in a Capitol Hill hearing. In addition to that, you created an app.
Came up with the idea for Rabbit Sign probably around the end of middle school. Fully became a company with incorporation and everything in my sophomore year.
He started picking up coding on his own around age 10.
We really want to push for transparency because there shouldn't really need to be a need for speculation. If we get rejected, be able to look at, these are the reasons why.
So again, I'm glad they're fighting back. The universities only really care about appearing diverse, right? Also legacy, whose parents donated the most, and then the students don't really have to worry about getting accepted. Yeah. All of that is wrong. What happened in Harvard, for example, exposes quite well and how this disproportionately hurts Asian students. So of course these colleges aren't supposed to.
So a couple of years ago, right? Asians, Indians, and Asian countries, right? Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and so on, right? Indonesian and Filipino. So a couple of years ago, there was this whole thing about how all these colleges were discriminating against, and all these leftist, colleges, right? Who were getting government funding, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars from taxpayers who were basically gatekeeping the smart kids out because the dumb kids weren't smart enough to level up to the smart kids. So they were rewarding dumb kids by punishing smart kids. See, this is like, like that whole airplane thing where they put all the women in because they need the woman to be their, to be the face as the pilots and stuff. And then the plane flips over. And then you go, well, why were those women driving in the first place? They don't even have enough hours. Oh, because, we need to have women in there. But they didn't have experience. Yeah, but we still needed to have women in there. Because we got to fill the quotas. And that's the sad thing about this sort of thing is like, it's about quota filling for diversity. However, they punish the smart. Because, hey, you can't have intelligent people learning, and lifting up the brainless. See, I'm not a very smart person when it comes to stuff like this. Computers, I know how it works to enough, but I couldn't put one together for the life of me. I couldn't explain to you how the motherboard works with the whatever, right? Instead of fatherboard, or all I know is how to put it together, and I know where the RAM goes, and so on, and that's it. However, this guy at 13 years old knew how to code. He taught himself to code. When I was at college, right? When I was at college, I had a friend who basically, where are we? Apologies. I always get this wrong. Here we go. When I was at college, like about third, fourth form, I had a friend who lived just up the road from me, who was very intelligent, like coding wise. I bet you if he still stuck to it, he would probably be working at Google or Microsoft or friggin' somewhere big like that, because that kid was coding, and I felt like I could code. I should be doing that as well, because I felt like I like computers, I like the games, and I could go and code some games. And I was sitting at my table with our VIC 20 or VIC 64 or something, Commodore 64, coding, and I had someone say to me, "Yeah, you don't need to learn that. That's not going to really matter." And I stopped doing it. Now, it's been one of my biggest regrets, and the saddest thing about how adults can actually make children stop doing what they love doing just by a word like that. And so, whenever I see someone say, that anything negative about art or music, if a child's trying to learn or try to draw or play an instrument, I kind of go, hey, why not provide them with better instruments or better tools? Because it's important that when you see someone trying to learn something, that you encourage them. Because having been through the negative side of that, I want to be the one who encourages people and young kids to be able to learn more. And that's kind of like been my thing for, since I was young, right? Because it really hurt me when I was a kid hearing that, until years later. I mean, when I heard that, it was like, yeah, this doesn't matter then. Of course, the adults know more than I do, right? So I'm just a kid. What do I know about this sort of thing? And yet here we are. Everything is run by computers. Everything in the world, like virtually everything. 90%. The thing is that here's a kid, his dad saw him coding and probably said, yeah, let me encourage my son, right? And let me let my son, provide him with everything. So he's 13 years old, gets signed up with Google, yet he can't go to school, right? To the big schools at 19, and he gets rejected by 16 of them. Right? 16, all the big freaking schools reject him in America. And he's not the only one. They've been doing this across the board with all the smart kids, right, of Asian descent. And I mean, like Indians, Sri Lankans, Chinese, Taiwanese, and all that, because in their minds that they're the smart ones. So if we have these smart kids in the colleges, then the dumb kids that we need to give the scholarships for free won't be able to get in there to make us look good. And so it's quite sad. So this is really, it's not really good look for these guys, and I'm glad they're getting sued.
To have race-based admissions, but they try and find loopholes, ways to get around it. So they use the personal essays to hint at racial identity. And then they want to get students that perhaps aren't even qualified just so that they can look better. So they also quietly move away from SAT and GPA. And why? Because DEI is not about fairness. It's about putting race above intelligence, above hard work. Exactly. And that is disgusting. Now, in Stanley's case, it's the university's loss because Stanley gets to work at Google, but not every student has that opportunity. Colleges should admit students based on merit, not race, not oppression points, not because mommy or daddy went there. Instead, we see them lowering the bar to artificially create diversity.
The Jones allege that UC is engaging in racial discrimination in admissions despite the law banning the use of race in the process. Your lawsuit is the second one this month against UC over its admissions. The first one was by a group called Students Against Racial Discrimination, alleging diversity considerations are overshadowing academic merit and disadvantaging Asians and white students in the process.
UC, in connection with Department of Education, they're both using race for some federal grant programs, and we allege that this unconstitutional.
And speaking of Google, the company and many others are rolling back their DEI initiatives because they realize it does not work. Because turns out when you focus on race over talent, you don't end up with the best employees. These universities should take notes. Our education system is a disaster. I also want to take a look at this Connecticut student who graduated with honors but cannot read or write.
Did you ever think you'd be going to college here?
No, never. Never in a million years.
The 19-year-old began her freshman year at the University of Connecticut in Hartford this fall. She's excited to study public policy. the culmination of hard work after moving north from Puerto Rico as a child.
Even today, could you read this, or would it take you a long time?
It's impossible. I just see his words everywhere.
An illiterate honors student.
Alicia graduated from the Hartford Public School System last year, but she says today
This is why the American education system so screwed, right? That's why when you talk to people, certain leftist people in America, they don't really know what's going on in the world. Like, do you know what your country's been doing for the last 70 years in Latin America? No. What, do you know that you toppled governments in South America? No. Do you know that your CIA helped dictators butcher nuns and priests and democratic activists, right? And they overthrew democratically elected governments. They massacred whole towns. They were on land that the government wanted, but the villagers didn't want to move off. Did you know that? No. That's because you're not being taught that, nor are you going out of you to learn that. Nor, and I should say, are you smart enough to learn that, because you're not being taught to question anything, right? To have actual discord. That's why words hurt them, right? You're hurting my feelings by saying such words, right? And it's so funny watching certain types of Americans with this, and not only just Americans now, it's all across the world, right? Because the whole US aid thing has really infused a corrupt system of learning across the world with funding from American taxpayers. And I remember when I was reading American Hegemony, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. Let me just tell you what it is. Hegemony. No, I'm not going to. Right. So this is the word, right? So when I started learning about this is what it was. And I'm sure you guys know how to what this word is, but I just have real hard trouble pronouncing it. So, right. So it refers to dominance of leadership of one entity over others, often in a political, economic, cultural, and ideological sense. It can apply to nations, social groups, and even ideas that shape society. Now, isn't that what USA aid did, right? For the last couple decades, but especially in friggin' Latin America for 60 to 70 years. Why do you think that place is just such a horrible place to live in for people now, right? And why do you think all those those freaking cocaine and all that drug cartels got into power? Because of the democratic leaders who wanted to change their society. Their countries were cut off, had their heads chopped off, right? Or shot dead, or buried in mass graves, right? So this sort of stuff, a lot of people don't know about until you start learning about it and go out of your way to read about it. I did this 15 years ago. I was looking into this 15 years ago, right? Because as a writer, I want to know as much about how the world works, how politics work, how people's brains work, either good, in the middle, or on the left, right, whatever, any side. I just want to understand people's minds, why they do the things they do, and what pushes them to do what they do. Because as someone who writes characters, who I want them to be realistic as possible, what makes them tick? It's very important to me to make them realistic to a reader. Because why else would everyone read my work if it's just another blasé rubbish piece of crap that you can find out of 1,000 other ones? So, I try to read all this stuff so that when I have this knowledge in my head, or even if I don't, I seek it out and go into finding out what I can do with that when I come to write a story. Because at the end of the day, I want to make a good story so that people get entertained, but also learn something, maybe. No, not always, because entertainment doesn't always have to be about learning, right? Or education. So this chick, and here's the thing, they don't say how she came over across. Is she an illegal migrant? Do you notice that they didn't mention, right, how she actually ended up as a child in America, right? Does she come legally or illegally? because that's very important, because you're actually, not only are you cutting off someone who's smart enough as a citizen of America, whose parents have paid in their tax dollars to pay for the schools that they're trying to get the kids into, along with all the other Americans, citizens. But here's a lady, don't know, right, who could be basically taking that spot that probably belongs to Sean, right, Stanley, the other 19-year-old, right, American, who's very smart, right? At 13 years old, he was writing code. He started up a startup because of that code. He started a company at 13 years old. Yet he wasn't allowed into these at the age of 19 to get into college by 16 other schools, right? Top tier schools. Yet this person who can't even freaking read or write gets an honors pass. Because with that, I'm sure she gets all the scholarships after tax dollars from the American people.
But cannot read or write.
Did you ever think you'd be going to college here?
No, never. Never in a million years.
The 19-year-old began her freshman year at the University of Connecticut in Hartford this fall. She's excited to study public policy, the culmination of hard work after moving north from Puerto Rico as a child.
Even today, could you read this, or would it take you a long time?
It's impossible. I just see his words everywhere.
An illiterate honors student.
Alicia graduated from the Hartford public school system last year, but she says today she is illiterate. She still doesn't know how to read or write. When she was in early education,
They would just either tell me to stay in a corner and sleep, or just draw pictures, flowers for them.
and when she was in high school, she relied on speech-to-text programs and other apps to read and write essays. Now, Alicia is suing the Hartford Board of Education and the city for negligence.
So that's what happens when universities prioritize diversity quotas and graduation rates instead of actual education. They just pass these kids through the system even if they're not prepared, give them the diploma, and then pretend that they did their job. Or let's talk about Baltimore, spending all that money on education, and yet in 23 schools, not one person was proficient in math. Zero. At some point, we have to ask, where is this money going? Because it sure is not helping the students.
Hey, do you remember like the little while ago, a couple of years ago, they were like, maths is racist? It's only racist when you can't do maths, right? Not when you're kidding to do it. I mean, I'm not really that great at maths because like that's not something I know how to add up. I'll get my calculator out on my phone and do whatever I can't work out, the long divisions, whatever. But this is at high school and intermediate or whatever. In New Zealand, we call it intermediate, right? High school or college. And at American universities, colleges, right? It's that whole college and university is kind of weird for me. I can never work out which is which. All I know is the higher education, right, in America. And these people, she didn't even know how to read or write. And I mentioned last time, like when I came over here, I really wasn't that good. So my mom was paying my neighbor straight across the street from us, right, just over the friggin' street, right, to teach me how to read and write. And I had special reading classes all the way to, let me see, it's like year 9. I think it's year 9 if you like really like high school, right? All the way to high school. I was in special reading classes because I don't know everything. Yet this girl is just like, oh, you go over there and draw, mate. And yet now she gets scholarships to, honors. It's just so, you can see why there isn't that many, the education system is so screwed in America. And people go, why is it so bad? Well, because all that money is being spent on dumb people because of DEI.
Students.
And 93% of 3rd through 8th graders tested below their grade level in the subject.
We're not able to get to the root cause of what's happening because the leadership here blames it on racism. We've had Democratic leadership for decades. People here in power look like me, and everything's blamed on racism.
Why does the left refuse to solve the problem at its core?
They don't want to because not solving the problem keeps them in power. We do have a charter school here in Baltimore, a charter school with over 90% success success rate of graduating Black boys that the Baltimore City School Board wants to shut down. So they don't want to solve the problem because they want to retain their power and control. Enough is enough. Fight back and tell them, no, these are our children. They have meaning and they have a purpose, and you don't get to ruin their lives.
It's sad and it's disheartening because today, more than ever, the school system has the money and the resources.
And of course, people of color, particularly Black Americans, were discriminated against in college admissions in the past. However, modern race-based admissions are not the answer. They create a new form of discrimination in the process. The solution is not to replace one form of racism with another. We cannot lower standards for some and raise them for others. It shouldn't matter if you're Black, Asian, white, Hispanic, all students should be held to the same academic standards. That way, you know that you actually earned it when you get accepted. That way, you're actually prepared for high school, for college, for your job, for the real world. If we actually want to have the best doctors, the best engineers, the best leaders, a strong country, then we have to put competence over quotas. The goal of college admission should be to select the most capable, hardworking students, not to artificially shape the student body to look a certain way. And that's all for today's video, guys. You let me know what you think in the comments below. Also remember to like, subscribe, and hit.
All right, that is from Misha Petrov. Do check out her channel, Real Misha Petrov. So this is her link there to her channel. Now, we're going to move on to our main topic of the day, which is Africa, because I will spend an hour there just looking at two very, I guess, sad stories that that elderly gentleman went for love to Philippines. Now is dying with rotten leg because he believed the online dating site. But yeah, so this is just from November last year, right? We looked at, as you know, we looked at a whole thing that came out just a couple of weeks ago, right? That did a video on that. 70 to 80 Christians getting killed in Congo, where they're fighting over mineral rights, access, militias. And here's the thing. Black on black crime kills more than white on black crime. Like, far outweighs it. Like, it's just so huge, right? Like the numbers are like in the thousands and hundreds of thousands. But nobody gives a shit because it's black on black. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine, I should say not a friend of mine because I only know him through Twitter. Right, and we did I've had him. I've interviewed him twice in the past couple of years on this channel. Actually, and before, like when we were just on Facebook in the early years. He's from Chicago, and he said like he had to leave. Or was it Detroit? Or one of them. As a black dude, he had to pack up and leave because he was afraid of getting murdered by his own people. By the gangs, whatever, on just walking down the street. However, if one drug dealing, holding a gun to a pregnant mother's black woman's stomach makes the whole America, black people in America overturn and want to throw, do race riots, how come they don't give a shit when there's like 100 people over a weekend in Chicago getting murdered? How? Why? Why don't they care? But one criminal who swallows drugs even before he meets the cops, right? And they don't know what the hell's going on, and he dies, right? Because there's going to be an inquest because, racism has a way of what is it called? Changing narratives, right? Because it's all about power, like that lady said. They still want to stay in power, and so that whole thing made them millions of dollars. So why not, right? But we're not talking about that today. What we are talking about is Africa and Christians getting murdered by the hundreds of thousands in Africa, and nobody cares because it's black on black. And here's the thing. It's Muslims killing Christians, and then Christians having to defend themselves, and then like, but if, as you know, if you defend yourself, then you're at fault. But it's okay to you for you to have your children raped, get taken into taken hostages and sold into slavery and into Islamist countries, and then get human trafficked and passed around as like chattel, like you're a piece of furniture. But that's okay if you're a Christian, right? So let's go and have a look at this. This is Nigeria, right? And this is coming from CBN News. This is 4 months ago. Millions of Christians flee danger in Nigeria. 4 months ago. Did you hear about it?
Conflicts and persecution have forced millions of Christians from their homes. See how they're struggling to survive and how you can join with churches around the world to pray for the persecuted. Plus, in the U.S., historic injustice nearly destroyed Native American culture. Learn how one tribe is restoring its faith and...
Where is it? Where's the main thing? Intro. Here we go. The whole thing was like an advertisement for something else. Apologies, guys.
As we are gathered here, how...
Where is this thing? Get to the exact little... Wait, what? Yeah, I didn't think it was like for... And this is nothing new, right? Like I said, this has been happening for decades. There we go.
Everyone to Christian World News. I'm Wendy Griffith. My co-anchor George Thomas is off. Well, in sub-Saharan Africa, 16 million Christians have fled their homes due to violence and conflict. Pastor Barnabas and thousands of others live in one of many displaced people camps in Nigeria after fleeing Muslim extremists. This report by Open Doors UK comes to us from our friends at the Global News Alliance.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, God bless you all.
Amen.
As we can see, this is church. I'm a pastor, and this well, the people I pastor them. It's
As we are gathered here, how many of us fled due to the attacks? Raise up your hands.
Pastor Barnabas's church in Nigeria is a makeshift structure inside a camp for internally displaced people, or IDPs. The people he pastors are Christians who are violently forced from their homes by militant Fulani herdsmen.
Here is my house, where I live together with my wife, my 7 children. 3 of them stayed here with me and my wife. Then the rest of the children join up my neighbor to stay when it's night. When day breaks, they come back and stay with me. This tent here is from here to this place is 1.5 meters. From here to here is 1.5 meters. From here to here.
So, the question that needs to be asked here is like, how come all these American activists who rage on the streets about, Gaza, Palestine, is all bad for defending itself, don't give a shit about these people, their own skin color, their own blood DNA, black people. How come they don't really care? How come they don't protest and say, do something about Africa? Because it doesn't make them money. It doesn't bring them power.
Here is 1.5 meters. It's smaller than the double mattress.
The suffering of these displaced Christians is so tough that many of them have begun to lose their faith in God.
When I see my people living this kind of condition we are, I feel very bad. It makes many of them begin to lose their faith from God. They begin to turn away from God. But with God, we believe that God will still restore them back.
But this is how humanity works, right? It's like Muslims want to make you feel desperate, want to lose your, and I'm not Christian and I'm not religious, just to be fucking clear about this, right? I couldn't care less. But I do care about humanity and people using their religion as tools, as weapons to ostracize, murder, massacre, and, you know, butcher someone who believes in something else. See, because that is just abnormal behavior. But there is a billion member religion who is all about that, as we looked on this channel for, you know, so many times. Even last, you know, the last video we looked at why, you know, the whole purpose why Iran hates Israel is because it's written in their holy Quran, right? Which is actually which is basically a book taken from the Bible and from the Torah and mashed into one thing full of paganism and all this other friggin' weird humanistic things in it, right? That's got nothing to do with religion. It's just like a bastardized version of the Quran, of the Torah and the Bible. And yet, so these people here want to make these Christians desperate to give up all hope, because then they'll go, well, they'll swoop in and go, well, here's Islam. Come and take Islam, accept Allah, and we'll provide you all the help you need, and we won't murder you anymore. Because that's what they've been doing with the hostages in Israel, right? And remember, they're not all Jews who were at that party, at that friggin' dance thing, right? Festival. There were people from all around the world who were there, like tourists as well. I mean, I saw a black dude there. He was taken as a hostage. And they were basically said, we'll stop torturing you if you stop believing in God and now believe in Allah. Become a Muslim and we'll treat you well.
It has been my prayer for them in the name of Jesus.
Others, like Barnabas, remain faithful to Christ despite the severe hardships of life here. They worship God, ask for more of His Holy Spirit, and trust Him for their future.
For the place we are living, my prayer is that one day, God Almighty, we ask that God should restore us back to our ancestral homes. We will not remain so.
And by the way, we do have, I do have a future videos about the snakes in the church, right? These multi-million-dollar, you know, rock stars, these pastors and their crystal cathedrals type things, right? Living with their, like, you know, big hole, you know, shining stained glass, all that, and their 50-person choirs and amphitheater type freaking whole setup. Yet these are Christians in Africa living in plastic tents that's very big enough, the size of that's smaller than the size of a freaking double bed. And I've got a queen size bed, which is a bed about 15 centimeters bigger than a double bed, right? Wider. I used to sell beds, that's why I know that. Furniture, right? But it's just such a upside down world, right? When you really think about it. And I'm not saying I'm a devout person. I've always said I'm not religious, so it doesn't really bother me either way. But in the sense it does bother me is just the way humans treat each other, right? In this situation. So you got Christians living in their freaking cathedrals, worshiping in the cathedrals, while because, they get their little money going to them. Whereas you got these people here who are dying in the hundreds of thousands and displaced, 16 million of them displaced in their own country by Muslims who are hunting them down. And now they're living in tent cities and still trying to be keep their faith. Yet in America, the Christians in America can't even keep their freaking gospel straight. This is what we believe. These are the tenets of our belief, of our faith, right? And which is why everybody laughs at them and goes, well, you're just like us. What's the point of believing what you believe in? It's like it's like going to church and the dude up at the thing is like going LBGT things. And you're like, I'm sure that doesn't say that in the Bible, but I was like, yeah, well, we added that in later. Just recently, like the last 5 years, we just added that in because we want to welcome everybody. You can still welcome somebody into a house without being like them. Like you can actually go and have a talk to a person who's smoking dope and not smoke dope. You can have somebody in your house who's an alcoholic and not be an alcoholic. But, it's called the watering down of the gospel, from what I remember, right?
Suffering the way we are suffering. God lives, and as he lives, he will surely see us through. He is everything that we are. He will never disappoint, and he has never disappointed us. No matter of the condition we are into, so far our eyes is on him.
See, this is a dude. He's looking at all this misery around him, and yet still has his faith. That is the strength of a man, man. Like and I'm not saying like a blind faith. He can see exactly what's going on. He's not like, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be all good. He's like, no, it's tough, but I am still going to stick with this. It gives me strength, See, he ain't out there picking up a weapon to go, well, we're going to go fight back. He ain't going to get on his pulpit and scream, oh, you're persecuting us. No, he's just living his life. It's such a, like the upside down world of it all, right? These guys live this for real. And in all this misery, because of their faith, because of being Christians, and like Jews, right? They're basically persecuted forever, right? Because the West, the whole idea of like the Jews called Jesus, right? Therefore, they deserve everything they get, because that's also in the back of people's heads. And then you got all this propaganda being spread by Iran with the hundreds of millions and billions, right? That the U.S. Democrats have given over to Iran to use as propaganda across the world to make people see Islam as a savior, while at the same time, Islam is the worst thing that's ever happened to the world since its inception.
So far, our hope is on him. We put our confidence on him. We believe he's great. He will do it more than what we have not even expected.
Extraordinary faith. Well, every year on this first Sunday in November, Christians are.
So there is that. Now, let me just go. I want to switch over to this one. This is from 2 days ago. This is from Maya Tusi. He's an Iranian, living in his family raised in whatever, in Britain. And this is because just this past week, there have been massacres, all right? And we're jumping, around a bit. But this is in Syria. Because Assad got toppled, right, whatever. And so this former terrorist leader, right, came in and said, yeah, I'm going to be democratic, I'm going to be this. But of course, he's still friggin' the same thing, right? Once a terrorist, But the other thing was that they started like basically just killing everybody and taking over. And next thing you know, got this.
Welcome to Duty TV with some breaking news coming from Syria. Christians are in danger in the so-called new Syria under the leadership of al-Julani. The Alawites and pro-Assad forces are fighting back against the extremist Sunni leadership of the new country. And in this video, we're going to give you guys the latest update, what's been happening over the last few hours across the country and the reaction to it. And of course, we're going to get your response in the live chat. It's absolutely fascinating. Those in the Western world who were celebrating al-Julani's victory against Assad's dictatorship are very quiet today. As the Alawites, the other minorities, Christians, everybody is getting massacred, and nothing is being mentioned by the so-called international community. The European Union leaders, the European leaders are going around shaking hands with this man, al-Julani, who is and will always be an Islamist terrorist. We've got the media figures in the West, Rory Stewart, Alistair Campbell, the podcasters, going to the new Syria to do interviews with him. They're not telling the truth. We on 2CTV will tell you the truth. Let's start with everything that's been going on over the last day or two in the new Syria. First things first. The Syrian government have now declared a full military mobilization, suspending schools in Latakia and Tartus and many other areas across the country. The Israeli government warned the Islamists in Syria not to make a move towards the south. The Israeli government are furious and they are going to be hitting back. We have a statement from Israel Katz, the defense minister, because they vowed to protect the minorities, especially the Druze, especially the Christians, and all the others in the southern parts of Syria. That's not happening. The Alawites are fighting back. Pro-Assad regime, well, former regime, forces are fighting back. The Kurds from the eastern side are coming through as well. But al-Julani and the HTS regime of Syria, these are the Tahrir al-Sham regime, which were formerly ISIS, basically. These guys are showing absolutely no mercy. He's now putting on a suit and a tie, shake hands with all the international globalists. Yet he is still a barbaric monster. Now, in this situation, hundreds of Alawites have already been killed, unfortunately, in the past few days, as the fighters loyal to Assad are fighting back to clash with the new Islamist government. Let's not forget, there are only 12% of the population. They are a minority, and obviously they were the backers of Assad, which is not really a good thing. But Assad was also a monster. He was a dictator, but this is much worse than what you were already dealing with. Al-Julani promised the world, just like how the Taliban in Afghanistan promised the world. We are moderate. We are reformed. Everything is going to be different. This is what they're claiming to be different. Dragging people on the streets. Watch this video.
All right. Sorry. Apologies, guys. I should have done this thing. I always do that, but all right. Graphic content warning. Apologies. But, this whole channel is a graphic content warning. But yeah. Like I said, once a terrorist, right? This is the greatest enemy to humanity in the world.
Of course, as they chant, God is the greatest, right? The fight for jihad continues in the new Syria. We have a lot of disturbing footage. We're only going to show you some of them because the rest is just so graphic and disgusting. But you can see all of them on social media. Let's go to the next clip. Now you're not actually seeing where they're targeting, but you can hear the sound. There are some footage that you can see is more graphic on social media, direct, showing what they were doing. Let's just say it's a complete wipeout of these minorities in Syria. Al-Jilani promised that he's going to keep them safe. Al-Jilani promised Israel is not going to go towards the south for about 10 minutes. Who's now going? The IDF are now mobilizing to make sure that they are protecting and also protecting their own interest, the Israeli interest, when it comes to the buffer zone between Syria and Israel. They have to be on.
So what we're talking about is like when Syria, like when this whole move in Syria was starting to get, like on top of Assad, the ethnic minorities in Syria basically went to Israel, right, and said, please protect us. And they sent their leaders, right, the tribal leaders and all that, they went over to Israel and said, hey, listen, we need your help. That we're just going to get killed here. We can see it. Assad, as bad as the monster was, he kept every one of these people in fear of him because, all these different tribal things, he kept them in fear of acting up like they're doing now. And so they were okay, even though it wasn't good. However, once he was toppled, they were like, all these people knew these Muslims are going to come for us. And so they went over to Israel and said, hey, listen, you're the only people with sense who can protect us. You're the only people strong enough to protect us. So please watch our backs. And so Israel went to basically this dude and said, listen, if you move against these people, we'll come for you. Because they're now under our protection because they were asked. Right? So the Elamite, I don't even know who the Elamites were, but I was looking for this video. Let me just find it. I think I put it under something else. Let me just who they were, like, so we know what we're talking about here. Elamites, where is it? Yeah, here we go. So this is the Elamites. Let me just pop out of this one. So this is hundreds of thousands of Elamites massacred, right? This is from 2 days ago. This is what he was talking about, right? Tusi was just talking about Omaya, all right? So let me just grab the title.
Hey, shalom everyone. That's Amir Tsarfati, and I'm in the backyard of my house. As you can see, that's the Jezreel Valley right over there, the Armageddon Valley. And I've got some breaking news, unfortunately not good ones. This time, they're not about Israel, although indirectly they are. But these are very sad news. And I wanted to share it with you. A, because I report news. B, because I'm a Jew, an Israeli. And we care about the people that live around us, believe it or not. We do. So I'm going to wait for a few seconds for you guys to connect and share with you the very sad news that are emerging from a neighboring country nearby. if you can, please press the share button right now. Also, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so this video will be seen by as many. And again, I'll wait for a few more seconds and I'll share it with you. Colorado, United States, produced some very sad and bad news. And if you want to watch the footage, you're going to have to go to my Telegram channel because I'm not allowed to post footage like that on Facebook or YouTube. The algorithm will immediately disqualify this video. So let me give you background, okay? So about a month and a half ago, if you remember, it was during, if I'm not mistaken, December. The maybe a couple days after the ceasefire with Hezbollah was signed, the rebels that were backed by Turkey, the Syrian rebels backed by Turkey, these are Sunni jihadi rebels that were training and armed in northern Syria. And they saw that Hezbollah is beaten, Hezbollah is defeated by Israel, and they immediately went on an offensive campaign that ended up within a day and a half, 2 days, with the fall of the Assad regime. And so the Assad regime in Syria fell within less than 48 hours during that time. And now new sheriff is in town. His name is Ahmad al-Shara, or Abu Muhammad al-Julani, which is his name as a terrorist when he was a member of ISIS, and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the Syrian branch of ISIS. And Jolani took over Syria and became the president. I mean, ISIS took over Syria and the world, because Jolani took off his jihadi costume and put on a suit, and he overthrew Assad.
This is what I like about how Zelensky always wears this like the soldier kind of like the emblem. We talk about the emblem being actually a emblem of a militia that actually murdered thousands of Jews. You know, and Zelensky is supposed to be a Jew himself, which is kind of weird, right? From World War II, that whole badge of, you know, the logo icon that he wears on his shirt. It cracks me up.
Who butchered his own people anyway. Everybody applauded. And the former U.S. administration removed the bounty on his head.
That was crazy, right? So here, listen to this, right? So this dude is an ISIS terrorist. The same ISIS terrorists they were hunting in Afghanistan and across the world. So within 48 hours, they topple Syria. He changes his green, you know, his ISIS greens, you know, militia uniform, and puts on a suit. And now everybody is like, he's our friend now. He's no longer a terrorist. CNN went over and did a friggin' interview with him. And they got in trouble because it was like an act of terror. I mean, like it was, no, it wasn't an act of terror. It is traitorous. I think it was like a traitorous act. Like having, you know, going in there to a ISIS murderer, human trafficker, right? And interviewing him to make him look good for the West, which really did.
Assad, who butchered his own people anyway, everybody applauded. And the former U.S. administration removed the bounty on his head, canceled it, and overnight, from a hunted terrorist, Jolani became Ahmad al-Shara, the president of Syria. You know, when you grow up
Democrats,
in
man.
the schools of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, you're not overnight becoming a Western-minded statement. You're not. In fact, you're still a jihadist. You're just wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Just like others around us. And during that time, most pockets of resistance were quenched and took over. And Israel immediately made a move and destroyed within 4 days the entire army of Assad, all of its capabilities, in the most unbelievable.
Now, the reason they had to do that, because all that armament, all the military, whatever they call it, right? Merchandise, whatever you want, or weapons, everything, would have been turned against Israel or any other nation around them. Like, so preemptively, basically in the madness of these guys trying to topple Syria, Israel was like, if these guys get a hold of these fucking lunatic terrorist monsters, former ISIS, right, or current ISIS, get a hold of all this, they're just going to start using them against everybody around the world, right? And so they went in and boom, they stopped it. Because remember, we just saw them tying a dude's feet to their car, to their Jeep, and driving around the streets with them. Someone who they considered their enemy, right? So I'm going to speed this up a bit, but like, because he's, let me see here. He is talking a bit slow because, of course, it's a very serious thing, right? It's not, but I've got another video that's going to cover that a bit more from someone who actually speaks Arabic and understands more, called Christian Prince.
Military operation that we've ever had since Israel was born in 1948. And a lot of people don't even talk about it, but it was phenomenal. Okay, all of this was just the background to tell you that Syria, on the paper, supposed to be a liberated country. And there is a new president, although he was never elected. And he's supposedly a nicer, better person,
Basically a dictatorship,
with whom the world can do business. Turkey, of course, is backing him up because he's a Muslim Brotherhood Sunni jihadist. And the biggest loser of the fall of Assad were Russia and Iran, of course. But Turkey, as you know, Syria is not comprised of just one Muslim faction. We're talking about minorities that live in Syria. We've got the Alawites. The Alawites are actually Shia Muslims. It's a small minority. They live mostly on the coasts of northern Syria in Tarsus and in Latakia and other places around there. And by the way, Assad was a member of the Alawite family, so he was a member of a minority that took over and ruled for many years. But there's also the Druze, and there's also the Kurds, and there's also Christians that live there. So these are the four most important minorities in Syria. Now, the Druze already could see where the wind blows, and Israel already offered the Druze protection. And from what we see, the Druze gladly decided to be under Israel's protection, at least those in southern Syria. But 2.5 days ago, a newly emerged remnants of the Assad regime military force decided to start an military offensive against the Jolani's gangs, and they killed about 30 or 40 of them in what appeared to be a takeover of the coast of northern Syria. They kind of wanted independence. They said, we don't want to be ruled by the jihadi Sunnis. And this is where it gotten really bad, because Jolani and his gang, remember who they are. They're Al-Qaeda, they're ISIS. These are not, people like you and I that think the way you and I think. And he sent his gangs. And in the last 24 hours, and these are the bad news.
It's from two days
there
ago.
Are horrific videos. And just like on October 7th, Hamas took all the footage of what they did. Just like that, Jolani's gangs, the Sunni jihadi Muslims, began to videotape atrocities. And in the last 24 hours, reports are emerging of no less than 2,400 people massacred. And I'm talking about Christians and Alawites and others, in piles of bodies in different places. Al Jazeera is not reporting. The Western media is not reporting. No country condemns the new ruler. No one does anything. No one cares about them. Now, just to make it very clear, the Alawites, they were allies of Hezbollah and Iran. They never liked us. I'm not defending now people that loved us. I'm actually saying our enemies.
24, 26.
Yes, but they're being now massacred by the Sunni jihadists, it's no longer by the dozens, by the hundreds, and it's already exceeding 2,400 people. On my Telegram channel, you will find disturbing videos. No, if you're too sensitive, I suggest that you don't watch it. But these are not just, it's one thing that military force is fighting another military force. Both sides are armed, it's legitimate. But the Al-Qaeda, ISIS gangs of the leader of Syria, Jolani, they're not fighting soldiers. They're going and butchering families, children, women, elderly. They make them crawl and they make them bark like dogs. They take some of them to the forest and shoot them, and all of it is documented on videos that they themselves are filming. I'm shooting this video right now just so you remember that I never stayed silent about this. None of us should. These are my enemies on the paper, yes. But I cannot stay silent when Hamas type invasion into homes of families and butchering them is being done now by the same type of Sunni jihadists to people that they don't like and they don't fit their narrative. And so I want to tell you folks, if I'm not going to speak out and if you're not going to speak out, this stupid, hypocritical world will do nothing, will say nothing. Because no Jews, no news. If it's not about Israel killed people in Gaza or in the West Bank or in Lebanon or whatever, we don't report that. Al Jazeera, the champion of the Arab human rights, supposedly, they're just the servants of the Muslim Brotherhood in Qatar and Turkey. And of course, whatever happens now doesn't fit well, or doesn't sit well, or doesn't look well. So they just don't report. That's all. And unless people like me or others are reporting all of this right now, the world will never even know what's going on there. So I'm telling you, folks.
Now we're gonna. I've got a news. Here we go. Since we're in Nigeria, right? So this is the year before, right? 2023. So we just looked at how these people got displaced last year. 6 million of them, or 16 million of them. So this is from Detroit Catholic.com channel. I mean, website. Right. So this is Christian priest burned to death, Catholic priest burned to death in Nigeria. Other Christians in Congo killed. Of course, like I said, this isn't new. That's why, like, when a couple of weeks ago when they had 70 killed, I was like, yeah, they've been doing this for a while. So this is 2023. Nairobi, Kenya. Deadly violence hit Christians in Africa January 15th, 2023, with a Catholic priest in northern Nigeria burned to death and as many as 17 Christians killed in a blast in eastern Congo. Now, by the way, that's not a white name, just in case you're wondering if it was white, right? So this is black on black crime, Muslim on Christian crime. In Nigeria, Father Isaac Achi was burned to death at his residence in Paikoro, local government area of Niger State. The armed man had set his house ablaze after a failed break-in at 3 a.m. Another priest who was at the house, identified only as Father Collins, so that's a white dude, I guess he's a visitor, was shot and injured as he tried to escape. An indigenous priest from the area ordained in 1995, like I said, not a white person. Father Archie recently was the priest in charge of St. Peter's and Paul Catholic Church in the Diocese of Minna, Nigeria. Government and church officials in the state have condemned the killing of the priest, right? And you're going to read the rest there. Let's go down to here. In Democratic Republic of Congo, the death toll from January 15th church attack is estimated to 17. So, like 3 years ago, they did a whole bunch of massacre. A couple of weeks ago, they did another 70 or 80. I think it was about almost 80, right? So, 17 people, according to figures provided by DRC's government spokesman, with some sources, however, saying 10 people were killed and 39 others were injured. People were killed in a bomb explosion during a service in a Pentecostal church in the eastern town of Kasindi, near the DRC border with Uganda. Right? The army has linked the attack to the Allied Democratic Forces. Isn't it interesting when they say democratic? Kind of like hate that word now. Democratic, democracy. Because most of the time they call themselves that and then they do the opposite of it. The army has linked the attack to the Allied Democratic Forces Islamic. Isn't that interesting? Democracy in Islam. An Islamic extremist group originally from Uganda operating in Central Africa. In 2019, the militant group pledged allegiance to the Islamic State, ISIS. Remember, we just looked at Syria, with the ISIS leader there being the new president that everybody loves, even though he's like massacring everybody that he disagrees to them or that disagrees with his total takeover of the country. Also known as Daesh. So let me that one. I want to look at this dude, these guys. This is Boko Haram. You guys have probably heard about this because maybe not, because of Oprah, right? And this is from a year ago. We're just going to play a little bit of it, and then we're going to move on to Christian Prince. So this is a Islamic State, if I remember right, Muslim terrorist group. Usually they always are, right? So this is the deadliest terror group in the world, right? Who is the deadliest terror group in the world? ISIS, Hamas, Al-Qaeda. Many names might spring to mind. Yeah, but this is from a year ago, right? So we're going to learn a bit about these monsters. I've seen some of the stuff they've done. Not the best. I mean,
Who is the deadliest terror group in the world? IS? Hamas? Al-Qaeda? Many names might spring to mind, but for much of the 2010s, there was one correct answer: Boko Haram. Today, on A Day in History, we will look at how this small Nigerian terror group became one of the deadliest groups in the world through bombings, massacres, and kidnappings, all while waging a war against the government. Boko Haram emerged in the early 2000s from existing Islamist groups in Nigeria. Since the 1980s, the dominant Yanizala movement has shaped Islamist politics in the country. It had strong grassroots support thanks to its itinerant preachers and teachers who spread its message of rejecting un-Islamic ideas and beliefs. These groups took aim at so-called Western institutions and practices, many of them left over from British colonization, and wanted to root them out of Nigerian society. This included things like Western-style education, medical science, democracy, Christianity, and secularism. However,
isn't it interesting that I want education? Because that's really, to think about, Islam doesn't like education at all, because they think that the Quran is the only thing you need, right? So you don't need education. That's why they won't let the women get educated, because then they'll be too smart. They'll want rights. They would want to be treated fair, not just as slaves.
Western-style education, medical science,
and they don't want science, right? They don't want medicine. Like, they want to throw that all out. But the weirdest thing is, like, a lot of these YouTube Muslims, right? These preachers, these YouTubers who like sit around all day and preach about this, and they say how technology, Western stuff is evil, yet they sit on their phones and preach at you about how great Islam is. I always laugh. It's like the whole leftist ideology. Capitalism is wrong. It's evil. We must overthrow it. And then they sit there. There's what is it, like pumpkin lattes, avocado toast. It's like one of the jokes that we had like about 4 years ago, right? How they were like, we got to have our avocado toast and our pumpkin lattes while chatting to each other and like hating that, technology is so bad. Oh, not technology. Capitalism is so bad. We cannot have that on their $1,500 phones or $2,000 phones. It's like such a backward thinking that I can never understand about the left, which kind of is that socialist communist ideal of the world, where they think anything that is Western is evil, but anything that is tribal, anything that is indigenous is good. And let me tell you, it is about 10% good, indigenous shit, but the other 90%, it's very bad. That is why they didn't last that long. This is why when Christianity, when modernism, when the Brits, when colonialism came, a lot of people went, please, help us, right? Give us your medicine. And of course, it wasn't always a good way, because there's always going to be bad people, right? Wanting to take over, wanting control. Not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people that came in, wanted to help, right? And there's like, okay, well, let's help these people, because look, they're freaking eating each other, or they're killing each other. One tribe versus another tribe, right? But at the end of the day, a lot of those tribes wouldn't exist if it wasn't for colonialism, if it wasn't for Western governments, or if it wasn't for the democratic elections of leaderships, right? I've seen, since I've been, looking at this for the last couple of decades, since I got interested in world politics and stuff like that, and just the way the world works, like countries work. how without Western ideals, countries just topple over. People just are like dogs at each other's throats. You know, like one of my friends once, you know, American friends I was talking about earlier, he basically says it's like crabs in a bucket. Everybody, you know, clawing over each other to get up to, you know, get to the top or get out of the bucket or whatever you want to call it, or be the one on at the top of the bucket looking down on everybody. But yeah.
Democracy, Christianity, and secularism.
So, you know, because it's like you got to be the one in charge, right? You can't have people wanting to have their, you know, to vote for what they believe in or what they want, how they want to be run. But, you know, you can't have Christianity because Christianity says, you know, love thy father and thy mother, you know, before anybody else. I don't know, but you gotta, you know, you gotta make sure that you bow down to your leader. Dictatorship, right? You know, dictators always get a religion, get rid of arts, get rid of freedom of speech, get rid of journalism, all that stuff. They always get rid of that because then they control what you're hearing.
However, Yanizala refused to engage in more militant activism in pursuit of this goal, which caused a number of splinter groups to emerge in the late 90s and early 2000s. One of those groups was named Al-Sunnah wa Al-Jama'ah wa Al-Hijrah, meaning Group of the People of Sunnah for Dawah and...
So here's the thing, right? The Islamists use these guys, and this is what I've heard, right, from listening to Muslim speakers and historians, that they use Africans to keep Arabs in line. Because Arabia, right, Arab, like Middle East, right, because Africa, right, Northern Africa, this is where these guys are from. Northern Africa, where the Houthis, you know, the Houthis, they're the ones who are like attacking all the ships, crossing, you know, the pirates and all that, right? They basically are used by Iran to keep normal Iranian civilians in line. They're used as a battering ram to punish their people if their people rise up against their government. And you'll notice Arabs are very light-skinned. Yeah, they just look like Israelis. Slightly dark olive skin, but yeah. But look at how well armed these people are. And, you know, da'wah, which is basically spreading their, you know, Islam, and jihad, killing people who disagree. The Group of the People of Sunnah, right? That's their name. For spreading Islam, right? Through death, jihad.
Jihad in English. Sunnah is the Muslim term for the traditions and practices established by the Prophet Muhammad. Dawah is the sacred duty to convert others to Islam, while jihad, which probably needs no introduction, meant in this context an active fight to expand Islam and destroy its enemies. Before long, the Nigerian media had another nickname for them, Boko Haram, a name which can be translated as Western civilization is forbidden. Boko Haram was fully established as an independent group by a former Yanizala member named Muhammad Yusuf.
Wait, isn't that interesting? Western civilization is prohibited. The very thing that saved you guys from wiping yourselves out is prohibited. The very thing that brought you medicine and technology is prohibited. This is why I say all those Dawah guys, you know, they're called, you know, the YouTube Muslim preachers or activists. They're called the Dawah bros, right? They're the ones who preach the same thing as these guys, right? Technology is bad. Islam civilization is bad as they sit getting super chats, using YouTube advertising, promotions, using American technology, Western technology, using electricity, power, right? Using cars, cell phones, homes built by Western technology, saying Western technology is bad. I watched a video of a guy, a preacher, basically smashing up phones while another person is recording him smashing up phones. The Muslim brain does not work well. The Islamist brain, I should say, not say Muslim, right? Because Muslim is a religion, right? It's not a people. It's a religion. Just like Hinduism is a religion, not the people. Because I'm an Indian, by birth, I should be a Hindu, but I'm not, right? Because I don't believe in Hinduism or the Hindu religion. So Islam is a religion. It is not the people. And a lot of times when you attack, when you attack the beliefs of the Muslims or the Islamists and say, well, what you're doing is wrong, they think that you're attacking the people, right? Because Muslims come in all colors and creeds, as they say, and ethnicities, right? And the Middle East are Arabs. However, these people have been used and militarized to keep those Arabs in control, in line, as I mentioned earlier, especially with Iran.
Yusuf in 2003. Yusuf took a harder line against Western ideas than other Muslim leaders and set himself up as an antagonist to the secular Nigerian state. This boiled over to violence in December 2003, when some of Yusuf's followers clashed with Nigerian security forces in the town of Kanama. This had a radicalizing effect on his followers and convinced many of them that the government was its enemy. There were several attacks by Boko Haram on police stations around the country in 2004, which led the Nigerian government to crack down and kill over 24 Boko Haram members, and forced its leaders to flee the country. The years between 2004 and 2008 was something of a dormant phase for Boko Haram. They committed a handful of hit-and-run attacks on Nigerian security services, but never enough to provoke a full crackdown or fully reveal themselves. During this time, many of its leaders, including Yusuf, traveled abroad to study with other radical groups, learning methods and ideas that would transform Boko Haram from a minor nuisance into a powerful threat. 2009 proved to be the fracture point, although sources disagree on what exactly caused the crisis to break out. One story goes that on June 11th, a convoy of Boko Haram members were riding motorbikes between the towns of Biu and Maiduguri when they were confronted by police. Apparently, the Boko Haram members weren't wearing helmets, and after the police tried to make them, a fight broke out, which left people on both sides wounded. Yusuf and his followers interpreted this as an attack and launched a wave of revenge violence on police and security services. Others claim that a Nigerian...
The interesting thing, like I want to mention here, is like how well armed they are. And you got to think, like, where is that money for those weapons coming from? Iran, and also the theft of, underground selling of minerals and stuff, right? Yeah, Paulus. So I can, we're not going to watch the entire video, but the link's there. Now, what I want to show you, right, is something very quickly, what a survivor. Let me see if this is the one, and then, oh yeah, here we go. Here's a short clip from 10 years ago, right? So just give you a background, because these guys are still active, right? Don't think that these guys are not doing anything. These guys are active, right? So this is a video from 10 years ago. And of course, like I said, this is what you saw in Oprah, right? It's a news clip from 10 years ago. What channel is this from? Let me just find it. Fox News, right? But it's a time when like it was huge. The entire world got to see who these monsters were.
Over 300 young girls have been kidnapped from their girls' school in Nigeria and told that they will be executed unless they convert to Islam, renouncing Christianity, and marry, in other words, get raped by the Islamic extremist group leaders.
Now, in case you missed what I said earlier about what happened to the hostages, all right, from from Israel, from October, was it October 7th? They were told the same thing. Either you stop being a Jew and convert to Islam, or we'll kill you. So the true enemy of humanity is Islam itself. These fundamentalists, these hardcore, well-armed monsters who basically go around raping children, women, and males, and boys, and women across the world as a form of invasion, as a form of demoralizing the local populace. And not only just that, but they murder them as well, right? Kill them, right? But it's if we were like 100 years ago, no, sorry, let's say about 200 years ago, before the World War I and all that, our nations would be at war against these people. Honestly. Because I remember reading Winston Churchill saying what he thought of as Muslims, like Islamist Muslims, right? And also when America itself was being formed, it was the Muslims, it was the Islamists who were attacking them on the seas for no reason at all. Kidnapping them, blowing up their ships out at sea, the Barbary pirates. I'm actually going to have a talk to one of the friends. I forgot his name right now. Brain. Yo, right? Yo. He's from Africa. Raised in America and is living in Israel, right? And he's doing a whole study on it, like research on Barbary pirates. So the first enemy of America were Muslims. Isn't that crazy? The first enemy of America, the formation of the country, right, of America, was actually Muslims, Muslim pirates.
Group leaders. What does this say to us about the situation in Africa and really about the situation of Islamic extremists throughout the world? Nigeria is an important country for a couple of reasons. One, it's one of the largest countries in.
Here's the thing. We found out that Islam 10 years ago, right? There is a murderous, fundamentalist zealotry of monsters and terrorists. Yet now, 10 years later, we see them as a religion of peace. Wow, that friggin' billions of dollars of propaganda is pretty good, isn't it? That Berkeley students, right, that all the colleges around the world are saying that Islam is a religion of peace, when only 10 years ago, we all saw it as monsters of terrorists, right? Monsters and terrorists. Look at this. They burned down a Christian school and kidnapped 300 girls. African girls, black girls.
In Africa, 100 million people. 2, it's an oil-rich country. And 3, it is at the fault line between Christianity and Islam. Boko Haram, the name itself means Western education is forbidden, was formed in the late 1990s in Nigeria as an anti-Western, anti-Christian, anti-woman, anti-education group. And then 5 years ago, they became violent. They attacked government leaders in Nigeria, they attacked Christians, and then most recently have taken as hostage 300 Christians.
So look at this. Militants are drawn from impoverished, religiously uneducated youth. They're dumb. So what do you do with dumb people? Well, you give them who have no sort of like, who are poor, who have no future according to, to whatever society. So rather than give them a future and education, well, you know what? Let's join a cult. Here's the Quran, and this is what it tells you. Christians must convert to Islam or you kill them. Or they pay you to stay alive. Jews must be dead, no question, or they must convert. But it's better off if they're dead, all right? And anybody else who stands in our way, well, they're just in our way, so let's get rid of them. It's like, this way you see a lot of gangs come from poor backgrounds, gang members, and uneducated. High school dropouts, primary school dropouts, whatever you have, right? Very uneducated. And then they behave like they're uneducated, uncivilized people as well.
And girls. We don't know where they are. We don't know what fate befalls them. But it is part of a bigger problem in all of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, as well as Northern Africa. It's the spread of Islamic extremism, whether it's been the chaos in Libya, where Al-Qaeda has now taken a foothold, where Al-Qaeda killed, and Al-Qaeda affiliates killed Americans in Benghazi, Algeria, where Islamic extremism has happened again, and they've created military units. We've seen it in Mali. We have seen it now, sadly, in Nigeria. This is the beginning, not the end, of the story of the spread of radical Islam in Northern Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa.
Isn't she right, though? Like, this is from 10 years ago, dude. Like, guys, 10 years ago. And right now, if I remember, I think this is where there are like Houthis and are like, is it here? Or is it here? Somewhere along here is where they're like basically, the pirates are blowing up ships and attacking them. Now, I want to show you one more from this one, from Boko Haram. And then we'll move on to... So this is the girl who tells a story about what happened to her, right, from that school. So we were in school about to break our fast when we suddenly got gunshots. So this is 2014, right, 4 years later. No, wait, that was what? Hold on, let me find what year was. What year was that one? Okay, so that one was, from 10 years ago. So this, which would make it, oh yeah, this is from that time. So this is one of the ones they were able to accept. So we were in school about to break our fast when suddenly we had gunshots and everyone was confused. The militants called out saying, come to the gate, that they were taking us home. One called on the driver, bring the bus. We entered the bus and leaving Dapchi. They asked who among us are fasting, right? So they're asking who's the Muslim people, right? Ramadan's on now, like the fasting month, whatever. So they were asking who are fasting, right? Then they gave us food and drinks as we later crossed on a boat to the other side. There's one of the girls that wasn't freed because she was a Christian, right? So they released all these other ones because they're Muslims, but they kept the Christian. We were freed because we're Muslim girls and didn't want us to suffer. A girl captured by Boko Haram tells a story, right? Not because, she wasn't freed because she's an African, but because she's a Christian. Like her classmate. This is why they released us, because we're Muslims. They didn't trouble us. So this is the one we just learned about, right? And Boko Haram, in 2014, Boko Haram adopted 276 female pupils. In Nigeria, 100 girls have yet to return. And that would be the 100 Christians, right? So I want to, I was going to play someone, but I want to show you something really interesting before we move on to the Christian Prince video. Oh, yeah, hold on. Sorry. Let's do this one, then we'll go to that one. Header open. Here we go. So this is India, right? So this is Christians reportedly attacked with iron rods in India. And this is 11 days ago, right? Just under 2 weeks ago. Let me get the link.
At a church service in Western India, Christians have been attacked with iron rods, resulting in serious injuries, according to a report from Christian Solidarity Worldwide. Well, lawyer and investigator Cliff Smith joins us to give us the details. So, Cliff, what can you tell us?
Well, according to the Christian Post report, this happened in the state of Rajasthan in Western India, and is a group of 200 people stormed this church building, vandalized property, and hurt some others. And that basically, after this was the case, police questioned the Christians about and accused them of forced conversions. And at least according to this report, they didn't take any action.
The weirdest thing is accusing Christians of forced conversion. And when we hear that, like, all the evidence points to like Muslims doing it. Muslims have done this in India for ages, right? Where they've basically gone into villages and kidnapped Indian girls, because this is their MO, right? Muslims' MO is to kidnap girls and marry them off and force them to convert to Allah, worshipping Islamists, right? Muslims. And so, because what that then does is you can do whatever you want with them, because now they're clean. Because as long as they're Hindu or they're Christian or whatever, they're unclean. But once they convert, then they suddenly become clean. That's why they do the whole conversion thing, by force and by torture.
Against the people that did the vandalizing. And so that is sort of what we know based on that report. This is...
Well, the other thing I was going to mention is that never have I ever in my times I've spent in churches and all that in the past, in several churches, Methodist, Catholic, Christian, fundamental, Pentecostal, whatever have you, right? Because my past. Have I ever witnessed somebody forcing someone to become a Christian? Because that's actually, it goes against the whole thing. Belief system. Like, why would you want to force anybody to believe in your religion? Because it's like, why? It's like against the whole free will shit. I mean, like if you go to Adam and Eve, right to the start, God, Adam's like, okay, I'm just going to eat the apple. Okay, so he eats the apple after Eve's offers them, right? Blah, blah, blah. And God doesn't even say, you stop this, you follow me, I will force you to believe in me. And, he goes, no, you guys go do whatever you want. But this garden here is no longer yours. So if that is the very beginning of the religion or the belief system of Christianity or the Torah, that even God himself never forces anybody to believe in him, right? I'm talking about Jesus, not Allah, right? But, or, the one God, whoever you believe it. If, let's just say in this thing, the God of the Bible, right, or the Torah. If he's not forcing somebody to believe him, who the hell are you to force someone to religion? That's why Islam is like the opposite of Christianity, even on that one single thing. You can't force somebody to convert into a religious belief because they'll never fully in their heart be converted to it, to accept what you're doing, because it's under pain, under duress. Why would anybody want to accept in their heart of hearts, right, that this is what I want or this is what I believe? Because all the time they're probably going, I was forced into this. It's like a forced marriage, right? You're never going to love the person, but this is what Islam does. And Islam has forced a lot of Indians and Hindu girls. Remember, I'm not a Hindu, but Indian girls who are Hindus or Christians into marriage, who have stolen from one village and taken to the Muslim village and forced them into marriage and made them force them into convert, which has really upset the Hindus, who do not like the Muslims anyway because of this sort of behavior. And so there's always like fights breaking out between the Hindus and the Muslims.
A complaint we have heard more often in India in recent years from Christians in India. It's been very controversial what is going on and why it's happening, but it is for example, the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom has named India a country of particular concern, and listed various abuses of this sort. The State Department, on the other hand, did not do so, unlike Pakistan and some other states that have been labeled such, at least in the past, and other states around the world that have, Iran, for example. So it's sort of a split verdict, but you have heard complaints of these kinds of religious violence from India increasing in recent years. You've heard those kinds of complaints.
Well, I think folks at home are probably, more familiar with the idea of Islamic persecution and what happens with Christians in the Middle East. But Hindu persecution, that's a new thing for a lot of people. Is this kind of more common than maybe most folks realize?
It's hard to say.
Yeah, so Paulus is saying, sounds like common behavior. And that is right. Like, it's like forced acceptance of something that inherently is wrong, right? Or it goes against your own belief system. And no wonder Democrats support Islam so much. Yeah, because it's a propaganda, right? It's weird. Like, people want to have especially Democrats or people who, when we talk about Democrats in America, right? But really leftists, not liberals, but leftists. They tend to want to have a chain around their neck and be told what to do. These are the same people, like in the past, were against establishment, but now they are the establishment, and so they are happy to be part of the establishment. It's quite sad.
More than most folks realize, I certainly think that's probably so. I do think you have to look at the differences between sort of Islamic persecution and Hindu persecution. They're not quite the same. Islamic persecution comes from, generally speaking, radical Islam or Islamism, sort of a theocratic interpretation of Islam that requires Christians to be second-class citizens or otherwise, not be treated in full equality with their Muslim neighbors in different countries. Hindu persecution is not religiously based, at least in the same way that Islam is. It's a much more it's a much more communal, much more culturally based. There's a lot of concern among Hindus that they need to be united in a nationalistic sort of way to protect them, ironically, probably from Muslims. And this has led to things like anti-conversion laws, which ostensibly are aimed at forced conversions, which have been reported, for example, by Hindu girls who are, according to many, are forced or coerced or otherwise tricked into marrying Muslim men. And usually Christians are not the primary targets of these sort of anti-conversion laws. However, that doesn't mean that they can't fall victim to them. And I think that, like blasphemy laws in many parts of the world, anti-conversion laws, I'm not sure they have a place, period, which I frankly think the same thing of anti-blasphemy laws. I think God can stand up for himself. Nonetheless, I don't really think they have a place, but even to the degree you could argue that they have some sort of good reason in some circumstances, you'd still be stuck with the fact that they are often used in reality to settle community disputes, to accuse someone of a crime, when really your beef is something else entirely, and really it doesn't have much to do with the actual issue at hand.
That's very insightful, and you brought a lot of clarity to
the rest of the link is there if you guys want to finish watching that. So we're going to look at Christian Prince. Now, Christian Prince is a really cool channel if you really want to learn about Islam, the history of it, debate about Islam, and all that. And he has people that he debates with, right? On there, Muslims who debates with him, who he gets on to debate with, or that come to him to debate with. So it's a pretty full-on channel. Now, and thousands and thousands of people view, right? Like just this one here, you've got what? 10,000 views, almost 11,000 views. He's got 200 people. So it's about 10, usually about 10% of whatever it is, like, is you get the view rate, right? And you got 1.8 plus 8 down. So he's that Arabian Arab, like I said, like that, you got them Africans, and then you've got the Arabs, Middle East. So he's a Middle Eastern Arab. Very important about differentiating from where people are from, because a lot of you need to know the geography to understand the cultural aspects of what people, how people, how things happen and how they deal with situations when they arise, how they look at religious, political. And one of the things that really happened, been really bad for America with this whole years of dealing with Islam, is that they don't look at what's on the ground, how the culture is, how the fact that they lie to your face, and that, and you think that they're telling the truth, and then they go away and say something else to everybody else, which is what Trump learned really, the last time.
Shalom, everybody, and peace of the Lord to all of you. This is just a video to announce that we will go live on Rumble later, because if I play this video on YouTube, most likely is not going to be an end in a friendly way with YouTube. So we will go live in Rumble in about 4 hours from now, 4 hours and 30 something minutes. So if you like to join us, the link is down below. And if you don't like to see things is ugly, I advise you not to join. All right, we will show you some. I will do my best not to show you like the extreme ugly ones, because there's some they are really ugly. I mean, all of them they are ugly, but
all right. So what are we doing here? We're doing this, right? So content warning. and we're ready to go. Oops.
And there's some people, they might not be able to sleep if they are not used to see those things. So I will show only what is possible to show. Speaking about what's happening in Syria, and to avoid any issue with YouTube, as you know, always if I make a video, I mean, I made a video about the funeral of Nasrallah. They told me this is against our, guideline and etc. and all the garbage. So to avoid this, we will be live on Rumble. The link is below. You can click on it, and you can join us. And we will do some kind of analyze, not only done here. The Alawi now in Syria, they hate the Assad. Stupid people, they believe. Done here, you will learn a lot about the geopolitics of this conflict, and the background always connected to religion. This is not about politics, as many stupid people, they believe that those are the supporters of Assad, as many they keep saying. Those are not the supporters of Assad. In fact, most of those people of the Alawi now in Syria, they hate the Assad because he betrayed them. They are in trouble because of him. What the support of Assad? I mean, this is a big fat lie. You hear it all over by CNN and Fox News and all the garbage. Those people are the first one to hate this man because he betrayed them. He ran away. He did not even, actually the army collapsed because he ran away. Otherwise, those terrorists, they cannot take the country that easy.
Exactly.
As simple as that. But when they saw that, the president ran away, everybody said to himself, "Oh, things is messed up." So the Alawi in Syria and the Christians, they hate this man. They hate him massively, for he is stupid, an idiot, and a criminal too. He's a criminal. He's a drug dealer. He's the same as Hezbollah. But he can still consider to be better than the ones right now in charge of Syria. And we will explain that to you in details when you join us live later. So invite your friends. Yeah, everything you see, like if you remember before, I made a video to correct apostate prophet and David Wood speaking about Syria. They didn't know. I mean, they never been there. They have no idea what they are talking about. And I don't blame them. I mean, if you are not from, like, if somebody tell me about the Christians in Congo being killed, what I will know except what they say in a newspaper? Nothing. We do not know the details, right? Because your information depend not in the real sources, depend in what the news agency says, and always in news agencies they have agenda. So, if the agenda is to support Russia. Putin is a great man, like Tucker Carlson, Tucker Carlson, or they call him Tucker, right?
Yeah.
This piece of garbage. He always praise Putin, make him like he's a hero, when the guy is, pure evil. I mean, in fact, what's happening right now in Syria is because of him. He promised them security, and when the terrorists attack, he have a deal with the Turkish, and he let them take over. And the deal is very simple. You keep your bases and don't worry about it. The rest is history. He sold the Armenian before, he sold the Georgian before, he sold the Syrian today, and who he will sell tomorrow, God knows. So what you hear in the news have nothing to do with reality. For many years, we hear even Fox News and other news reporters in the West saying that those are rebels, and we saw John McCain going all the way to Syria taking pictures with those terrorists, but those are terrorists, literally Al-Qaeda, literally Mujahideen. So when the Western media want, they call them rebels. When they want, they call them terrorists. The same as when Osama bin Laden was fighting the Soviet Union, USA called him hero. The same, Osama bin Laden, the same guy. He is the same guy who was doing beheading to Russian, kidnapping Russian. If you remember, when the terrorists of Chechnya, they attack in Russia, and they caused the death of more than 1,000 Russian child. How many? This is according to news. Some they say the number is way bigger. The school is massive as a size, fit for few thousand children. So at least 1,000 child was killed. What George Bush did, he invited them to the White House, those who killed the 1,000 child, and he called them rebels. So the Western, they have history of support.
This is why earlier I was talking about I still can't say that word right. American hegemony, right? Hegemony, American hegemony, right?
Supporting evil. When I say Western, I'm talking about government. You might be a person from the West, from the East, from Norway, from upside down, from Japan, from China, I don't care. Everybody of those countries, they have agenda, and the agenda is zero ethic. $20 billion sent from the CIA under humanitarian aid during Obama, during Trump, and during Biden. $20 billion. To who? To the ones that are doing the killing right now in Syria. Do you know what $20 billion mean? That means every bullet they have in their pocket is paid by USA. Not to mention the aid is coming from Germany, the aid is coming from, I mean, what we can say. So we will go like in more in details. And I warn you, what you will see is not going to be friendly. You know, I will give you a hint of what you will see. All right. Let me take, if you don't like to see anything, I'm not going to play a video for now, but just to give you an idea. People are killed left or right in the street. The Muslim Sunni, they walk in the street and they shoot everybody in the village. They get them out of their houses and they shoot them dead. Women, children, boys, kids, even cats and dogs. They call them pigs and they shoot them. And the West keep calling those scumbag rebels and call the victims. Imagine, guys, the victims are, they're the victims, right? No, not in the West. In the West, those are the supporters of the Assad. A person is in his house. He was killed. Why? Because he's supporter of the Assad. I mean, those Western, they know everybody in the town. They know every village, every house, every person. What is his motive? What they are not fighting. They are civilian in their houses. It's amazing how the money of Qatar is functioning. Qatar is the head of the snake. Now
we will be looking at Qatar in a future stream. It's basically propagandizing American schools, primary schools. It's, yeah. That's why in Qatar, when all those Hamas terrorists were there living it up in 5-star gold hotels, luxury, they did nothing. Now, somebody did actually say something about that, right? Where was it? I had a clip here. We played that a little while ago, but there was another one. Let me see if I can find it. I'll just carry on playing this while I'll look for that.
Now they will establish the Islamic State of Syria. Erdogan, soon he will make a vote, fiction vote, that Syria want to unite with Turkey. So he will eat Syria, and Syria will become part of Turkey. And then the second invasion will going to be Israel. You might think what I'm saying is fiction. But remember, the Ottoman, they occupy almost half of Europe. In fact, until now, they occupy more than half of Europe. 70% of the land of Turkey is in Europe is a theft. You know, we know. Actually, all of Turkey doesn't exist. So if you are like wondering how that can happen, it's very easy to happen. Those terrorists, they are Islamists. They don't care who is the leader. If he is an Arab or he is Erdogan, they care for having a caliphate. They want to have a caliphate, an Islamic state. And Erdogan, million times, he said, you can watch his video, speaking about his dream to enter Jerusalem victorious with his Islamic army. So step by step, they are going to surround Israel by an Islamic regimes. Next step, they will get rid of the king of Jordan. I mean, this guy is easy to collapse. He have no money, he have no army, he have nothing. I mean, this guy is just, and more than 80% to 90% of his population are Muslim Sunni, and they are Palestinians. Between two brackets, Palestinian, because I don't believe any of those are Palestinian. But the plan is bigger than what you think. The end of the plan is Israel, not Syria. Syria is the start. And then, you know, I explained that to you, but I mean, anyway, I'm going to explain more in details in a Rumble, and we will go live. So guys, do you see the link underneath? Is the link underneath is shown to you? Let me post the link here. There we go. And I will pin. So if you like to join us, we will be live on almost 4 hours there. No, for sure. If you care, if you don't care, who care? I mean, I do my part, and we cannot force people to listen, to learn, to educate themselves. Maybe it's better for you to watch some entertaining videos. You know, somebody say the F word a lot, or Tucker Carlson. You know, he's a genius. He spent $100 in the mall in Russia, and he discovered Russia is heaven. You know, that's it. And it's very safe in Russia, by the way. There's no Russian mafia. There is nobody disappear. There's no. I mean, that's it. You know, Russia. Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson. So there is people, they come to the internet for entertainment, and I understand that. I don't come here to entertain. I come here to educate. However, the smart one, his best entertainment is education. Like the smart one of us is the one who try to make his entertainment education, because then you are going to enjoy it, and then you will be learning. Knowledge is power. Ignorance is death. If people knows about what God is about, they will never disobey him. But they're ignorant. Many of them don't even believe. So our ignorance, as the Bible says, is our enemy. My people have been destroyed because of what? Because of their ignorance. So we are here to trying our best to fight ignorance. So you will not go blind, because ignorance is being blind. In fact, blind is not totally ignorant, because a blind person, God, he gave him a special sense for hearing. So he can recognize things just from the voice. He can recognize even how far you are from him just by your sound. I cannot do that, but because
Okay. So I'm going to play the video that I was trying to find just before, and we'll move on with that. But I do recommend checking out Christian Prince channel. Now, this is another one of the UN videos, right? We played one with the lady last time, right? And so this is right. This Rabbi Tanya, his channel, but he's got the video. I can find the video anywhere. But this popped up, so I thought, oh, let's do it. I watched it, and I was like, see, this is actual Arabs talking about what they see and the reality of what they see.
Crises and terrible things that are happening around the world. But for some reason, the focus seems to be almost solely on Israel. Why is that? Let's see, as this is brought up to the UN Commission, and what what is our response to this? I'll see you in the flip side.
I ask the UN, the Arab League, and everyone who has been raising the Palestinian flag since October 7, where is the flag of Yemen? In my country, 500,000 people have died in the last 10 years. The biggest famine and humanitarian crisis in modern history. Why does no one care when 500,000 Yemenis die? What about Sudan? In less than 2 years, more than 150,000 people have been killed. Where is the flag of Sudan? What about Syria? 500,000 Syrians have been killed. Where is the Syrian flag? High Commissioner, why is it that when Arabs kill millions of Arabs, no one bats an eye? Where is the outrage and where are the protests? Why don't you mention the Houthis in Yemen who have spent millions of dollars firing missiles at Israel instead of feeding my starving people? May I ask why your report mentions Israel 188 times, yet fails to mention the Islamic regime in Iran even once? How can you speak about the conflict while ignoring the party that has armed, trained, and funded terror proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis who have been bombing Israel thousands of times? And why is Qatar sitting here as a member of the Human Rights Council when they host the Hamas terror leaders in luxury hotels?
So that you don't get to see, right? That's something that you won't see on your national TV. You'll see, dead kids in Gaza, but you won't hear about dead kids, women and children in Yemen by the millions, or Houthis, bombing across from fracking the other side of the country, across country to go and try to attack Israel, who's doing nothing to them, right? It's the whole, like, I haven't watched like the news like the TV or anything probably in over a decade, maybe even more than that. See, the news I watch, I seek out myself. All right, I come on YouTube. That's the first thing when I wake up, I put it on, or whatever, and I look at what's come up on my screen, and I go, okay, so let's have a look at what's being said, and then we'll go look into it. And then, okay, so if I'm talking about something, I'll just post a link, save it into a folder on my what is it called? It's a web bar or whatever. What is that even called anymore? It's been so long. Bookmarks list. That's it. Bookmarks list, right? So I've got like thousands and thousands of informational videos, and they all go under different links, like Christians in Africa, and there's a whole list of interesting videos, and you got some like illegal migrants, Islam, UK grooming, TikTok insanity, Timu is poisoning you, and under that you'll have like about 10 to 15, or maybe like this one freaking here is like when I was doing the whole South Pacific thing, with a cult, there's like about 30, 40 videos. We never get to all of them, but we get to the ones we get to. The sad thing is that a lot of times all this stuff gets hidden from people, all this information that's out there, because we're so we're so tired and exhausted from a day's work, and so you just want to chill and you just want to get home, take or like in the old days, Dad would grab the newspaper and read the newspaper in the morning and then go off to work, right? And our family was like, he was going to work at about 5 in the morning, so there was no Dad reading the paper. He would always just, as he's leaving, he would come and knock on the door, wake up, get ready for school, and he'll be out. And then come home at night. Everybody's sitting there at 6:30 watching or 6 o'clock news, whatever it is, right? And now it's like everybody's on their phone, everybody's on a tablet, but we're not on there a lot of times to actually learn anything. We just have to be laugh and entertain it, and that's all good. Nobody wants a friggin' stressful day all day long, right? Or every week, every day. I don't, right? So I'll come and do these videos, and then I'll go and just watch some anime, or read something, or play some game, or go and work. Problem is that we forget to actually add in something that's informative or learning for us, that's something that educates us. And so we rely on the news to tell us everything, and so we consume the news without realizing that the news has a motive behind it to tell you a different story that they want to tell you, because that helps their narrative. For me, what I wanted, my aim with this channel is just to give you snippets of whatever's out there, and for you guys to learn whatever you want from, or take whatever the link and go and search up for yourself. Because for me, it's all about educating myself, because I think the more you learn, the more you understand. And the more, when people try to put you, come at you, because a lot of people try to come at you when you say something. If you're more educated or more aware of things, then you're able to answer them, succinctly, right? My brain, so, I've had so many head injuries, I can't respond in time straight away, because that's why I never would ever get into a debate with anyone, because I just can't, respond back, because my brain just won't let me do it, because it just forgets. What people call brain farts, I have that constantly, due to the head injuries. But I think we have so much information available, it almost feels like we're doing a disservice to ourselves that we don't, that we don't further educate ourselves about what's going on in the world. Like nobody's talking about Yemen, right? 500,000 people dead over the past decade. Nobody talks about that. The 16 million displaced Christians or Africans, because of Islam in Africa. 16 million. But if one person is dying accidentally or whatever by a police in America because he's black, the whole world is in a riot. Everywhere's got to have a let's talk about racism. Everybody faces racism. But not most of the time when people do that, it's about power, control, and money. Because when you really think about it, if they really cared about humanity or people that are dying, they would actually look at helping the people that are actually dying or being murdered constantly across the world for their faith, for their beliefs, or for just being who they are and not being a Muslim, right? Being targeted just because you're a female, or being targeted just because you're a boy, right? Or being targeted just because you're white or you live in Europe. And at the end of the day, like I said, this channel is all about just opening our thinking processes to learn a bit more. So thank you for hanging out with me. And this is as much for me as for anybody else. Just, hanging out, having a cool time, just talking, hanging out, chat when you guys comment. But wherever you are, man, have an amazing day. I'm looking outside, it's sunny. It's about what? It's 10 to 6 p.m. here on a Tuesday evening in New Zealand afternoon. We got daylight savings, so it's quite a nice day. Going to water some plants, maybe do some dishwashing. But wherever you are, whatever makes you happy, as long as it's legal and safe and healthy, do that. Art, music, I encourage someone to if you got a child who's interested in something like that, encourage them and help them, because you just, that will help them stay on, maybe grounded in a creative way in their future. So thank you for hanging out. Please like, share, subscribe, whatever, all that other stuff, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Ka kite anō. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you next time.
Nope. Can't stay here anymore. I gotta get back. I think this was the spot. Oh Lord, I beseech thee, please return me to my old life. I swear I'll do anything. Literally anything. And I won't bother you again, so pretty please bring me back to life.